Thanks so much for joining us. It's an election year, as you might have noticed, and that means voting and the ballot questions and the candidates are front and center. And here to talk about the elections in Massachusetts this year and broader voting trends is the Secretary of State of the Commonwealth, William Galvin. Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate having you here. How are the two parties doing? We were chatting before. You mentioned that party enrollment, Democrat and Republican, continues to slip. Independent or unenrolled continues to grow.
That's correct.
Why? What's going on? Give me a little your take on both parties.
There's been a long-term trend, I mean, quite much throughout the nation, actually, about people perceiving the parties as not to be particularly representative of their political addresses, if you will. There's been intensification in terms of the ideological sides of both parties. That tends to reinforce more people not being a participant in either one. And then I think here in Massachusetts, we've had a very positive opportunity for people who are not party enrollees to still vote in party primaries when they choose to. That's an option they have. So that means there's no penalty if you're a party. If you're an independent, you're not prevented from participating, as they are in some states. So that's part of it. I think there's been a gradual trend over many decades as people have relocated and migrated within the state to oftentimes not choose to be a party member particularly. And I think there's been other recent factors. Automatic voter registration has default registration as independent. That's a small factor. But I think all of those things have combined to gradually reduce the party enrollments.
Now, of course, you're a lifelong Democrat.
Yes.
You haven't been shy in the past about expressing your opinion about the direction of the party. What do you make of the way it's headed these days?
Well, I think the Democratic Party and the Republican Party both have, it's manifest all the time, significant internal discussions about policy, and various groups within both parties have strong opinions about policy. We just saw a New York State primary for congressional races where these fault lines were very much on display. Obviously, on the Republican side, I guess pick your poison, if you will. If you want a lockstep party that ideologically seems to be out of touch with many people, they seem to be going that direction. Many moderate Republicans are somewhat alienated by some of their views as well. So, I mean, that's the problem that parties traditionally have, is they want to be the big tent, but oftentimes they're a very small booth.
Well, well said. In the presidential race, the Biden campaign is certainly trying to, and polls show somewhat succeeding, in making the state and future of our democracy a big issue for voters. Are you worried about that?
Well, I'm surely worried about it. I mean, as the chief election official of Massachusetts, not only that, but I'm the senior election official in the United States at the present time. And I've talked to my colleagues in other states, both Democrats and Republicans, and many of us share the same concerns that we have citizens who are distrustful of the process. We have anxiety about the accuracy of the process, none of which are factually justified. But nevertheless, it's contributing to an unease in our democracy that we're very concerned. And there's no ignoring the realities of January 6th of 2021. There's just no ignoring it. We have to get beyond that. We have to make sure that the laws are clear, which I think the Congress has done something positive there in that regard regarding presidential elections. And we have to have transparency in the election process at every level to make people confident of it. I think in Massachusetts, we've had a very good record of that. I've only allowed paper ballots. We've only had that. Voters actually put the ballot into the box themselves. We have very easy recount laws. If people really want to check on a number, they're able to do that. And it's done all the time at the municipal level. So, but I think all of these things contribute to building public confidence in the electoral process.